2022 Hot 6 GSL Super Tournament Season 2.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the final GSL tournament of 2022, the GSL Super Tournament. I'm Tasteless, joined with me is Snake. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Excited to cast some StarCraft 2 games today. We got 4 exciting best-of-5s ahead of us to start things off, and it feels good to be back in this studio.
It's good to be casting again. Last time we were together, we were at the Tasteless LAN party. We had a little bit of downtime in between then. But look, I always love doing Super Tournament. I love the kind of traditional bracketed format. And I think we should have some pretty exciting matches. We do have a little bit of mismatches here, too, as well.
Yeah, we're starting out with a couple of mismatches. I mean, Maru, the clear favorite in the Classic in the first...
G5L.
Yeah, G5L. I mean, he's fresh off of his 5th GSL championship, the winningest GSL player of all time, arguably the best StarCraft 2 player of all time, and... You know, Classic, he's been struggling to kind of get back since he came back from military service last year. And
yeah, I mean, Classic is a player who, for a period of time, was kind of on top of the world. But, I mean, Maru essentially, if not the most consistent, at least one of the most consistent players throughout the entire history of StarCraft, a player who has really defined the race at very different periods of the game, at different expansions, at different patches, and of course coming out here with a 5th GSL win, which has really never been done before. And even the players that got close to that in the past, they really were doing that like in the first year of StarCraft 2, obviously over a decade ago, where the game was not figured out. It was a lot more wild, wild west as far as meta goes and RTS understanding goes. So, I mean, he's still, I think, probably the clear favorite for the entire tournament.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great showing there at DreamHack as well, as he barely lost to Hero, I believe, in the semifinals in a very close series. Of course,
yeah.
Hero versus Bunny, the DreamHack Grand Finals is going to be a round 1 match here in GSL Super Tournament, which honestly is kind of GSL like in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have like an international tournament Grand Finals is the first round here. I mean, like top to bottom, these brackets are just absolutely stacked with talent. So many star players, so many champions, and here we have the bracket right in front of you. Maru versus Classic, of course, starting things out, and then we're going to go into ByuN versus Armani, Creator versus Solar, and GuMiho and Special to wrap things up here on day 1.
Yeah, we do have a little bit of foreign representation here with Special. You know, he's very consistently in GSLs. He tends to knock it very deep, but I'm always welcoming a plot twist, an upset, something of the sort. Kind of want to echo what you were saying earlier with Hero and Bunny. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
That we're going to have these two guys facing off right away here on day 2 of the Super Tournament. This is best of 5s all the way through the round of 16 here. And when you lose, you're out. It's a very different format from GSL Code S. This is sort of harkening back to a lot of the more traditional RTS tournament formats where it is just kind of a very brutal bracket where you at least have enough games inside of a match to overcome that instead of having to play a variety of different players in a group.
Yeah, single elimination bracket. You either win or you are out.
Yep.
And it is a little bit more reminiscent of, you know, GSL in that there is time to prepare.
Right.
I mean, we're playing here day 1, 4 matches on Monday. On Thursday, we have another 4 matches on the other side of the bracket. So there's a week after this before we go into next week where these guys can devise new builds, new strategies to get ready. But as you said, it's very unforgiving. This is not going to be a group format where, you know, you lose, you have a chance of coming back if you win the next 2 series. Everything is on the line, every single series.
By the way, guys, this tournament is taking place in the normal studio where we hold the GSL Code S over at Samsung Station in the Freak Up studio. If you're watching this and it's like a VOD and you're thinking, oh, that's right, Super Tournament's on, I want to come down on one of the other days, remember that this starts an hour and a half earlier than a normal GSL time. So that's 5 p.m. KST, Korean Standard Time. But come down. We already have an audience here in the studio. Very excited to have you guys down here now. And yeah, come enjoy the last StarCraft event that Africa TV is going to be hosting for this year until we go on into 2023.
Man, that is a shiny trophy.
Yeah, can we get a shinier trophy, please?
Almost looks like one of those like James Webb telescope pictures you see, like the stars with like the refraction.
Yeah, we have to cast this. Look at this with sunglasses on right now. Very shiny trophy.
Yeah, that is gorgeous.
And I don't know, man. I'm excited to get into this, and it looks like we're about to do just that. Map 1 is going to be on Moondance here in this best of 5. Maru versus Classic. Maru, the clear favorite, perhaps the best player in the region, and on some given days, even the entire world. Going up against Classic, who's returned here from his military service, but is trying to find the kind of place in StarCraft 2 that he had before he had to take that break. And our game is now lit up, so let's get into this best of 5. Maru vs. Classic in the GSL Super Tournament starts now. Let's go.
Terran, Maru. Protoss, Classic.
So, although we've got Maru as the, I think the obvious favorite, I do want to point out, I think if Classic can play pretty well, we should have a pretty interesting series. I think even if Classic does play very well, I'd be surprised if he won in a best of 5 especially.
Yeah, Maru is one of the best players in the world on any given day, and as of late, he's been playing out of his mind, of course, fresh off G5L Championship, his 5th GSL win, and
making history, man. I mean, it's crazy to me.
I mean,
we had that trophy here for like a couple years.
Yeah.
And we had to dust it off and bring it back out, and then he wouldn't quite make it. We have to bring it back down into storage, but he's finally done it. And maybe we will have another trophy we have to get made.
G6L.
I think we take the G and we turn it upside down for the 6.
6SL.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Maru versus Classic, if you look at this on paper like 3 years ago, this is a headliner matchup. But
yeah.
It's always kind of a mixed bag for these players that are coming out of military service and trying to get back into the swing of things, because in StarCraft 2, and I love that you talked about this in the early days of StarCraft, where, you know, people like MVP, when they rack up championships, like that was an absolute era of dominance that we saw out of MVP. You know, it felt like every single season he had a shot of winning it, and very often he did. But back then, the overall skill level was a lot lower than it is now. I mean, even though StarCraft 2, we're not getting a lot of new patches, it feels like every single year, every single tournament, everyone just gets a little bit better.
Right.
So for Maru to come now and get his 5th GSL trophy 3 years after he got his 4th, and to continue to be at the top of his game is just so baffling to me. I mean, the amount of dedication to practice, the amount of perseverance, and I mean, just continuing to strive and improve.
And you know what else? Just reinventing the way that he approaches the game overall, I think is, you know, one of my biggest takeaways. And a lot of times when Terrans have had tough times in the game in general, he's been the guy that's kind of figured out a way to, you know, kind of come out on top or reinvent the race or approach it in a totally different way. Now this game, we have some pressure coming out here from these Stalkers. This is 2 gates. Now the Reaper can't actually get in here. There's no way to fit in based off where the Wallen is, but this is 2 gates with Stalkers being chrono boosted out and being slow dripped across the map.
Yeah, bit of an aggressive opening over here for Classic, and those 2 Stalkers, they get a lot of damage over here on this depot. SCVs are pulled, but the Stalkers will be able to take them out here in 4 shots, so 2 workers already going down as Classic opting for a little bit of aggression here to start things off and already getting some damage done. I mean, Maru, not only is he forced to have the CC on the high ground, but he has to wait until that Cyclone gets out to actually stabilize here, and that's a fair bit of damage.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a funny approach that Classic has. It's very straightforward, just kind of run up, and if you're not being honest, if you're cutting corners, you can put the pressure on, and he's not going to be able to land the command center for a little bit. Obviously, the Cyclone is the tool that kind of cracks open this position for Protoss, so Protoss doesn't want to overextend there. They need to be able to flee back far enough to get that lock-on turned back off. But here, it's actually going to come down and do that right now. Oh, nice. That was literally perfect by Classic.
That Classic barely skirting out of vision of that Cyclone, so Maru loses the lock-on. And man, I love this opening out from Classic so far, just mixing things up just a bit, going for that 2-gate pressure. And look at the worker differential right now, 36 to 26, a 10-worker lead. Maru's still only on 1 base saturation. Of course, he does have 2 mules on that mineral patch, but that main base is also going to mine out faster than if he had the natural expansion. And now the Banshee's coming out. Cloak is on the way, but Classic already has a Robo.
Oh,
yeah, a little bit of...
That was sick. Okay, yeah, that didn't even occur to me he could do that. Yeah, so he pops himself over the pylon in here. This is going to be one of the funnier chases with sentries trying to hunt down a Reaper. It is picked off. He does get to scout. He doesn't confirm that there's a 3rd Nexus coming, but when you don't see very much infrastructure there, at least in the main, it can hint to that. this map is structured so that the third base, you could take your third base in the very, very back, which is a lot easier of a spot to try to get than having some place that's out on the map. So I think, that's part of Classic's approach to this map here. Did he get an observer?
I think he has one going across the map, if I'm not mistaken, and now having to chrono boost an observer over here in the natural expansion, so Maru already able to pick up 4 probe kills. And Classic losing a little bit of mining time here as well as he's going to try and scramble away. Maru did wait until the last moment to cloak this Banshee, so it will be able to skirt out. The Stalker's not able to get the kill, and here we go. Maru now pushing across the map.
This part's going to be pretty important here, because if this push can work, Maru might win the game, but if it gets shut down, with 3 Nexuses finished for Classic, he's going to have a real engine to produce behind here. And this is such kind of a funny moment here, because losing this pylon would be massive. I think the Stalkers could basically perfectly cover it, but had that been taken out, 2 production facilities shut down. However, those 2 Stalkers covering that, I wonder if we should have poked that with the tanks and the Marines from, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
from the low ground.
I was just thinking the same thing, because the cybernetics core is there too, but said Maru going to siege up here in the natural expansion. Nice force fields coming out of Classic. Will isolate the Cyclone. There's no medevac here to be found yet, so a lot of Marines and that Cyclone both going down, but this Robo is placed precariously in the front, already at half HP. The shields are gone.
I mean, I feel like there might just be enough Stalkers to make this work, but it's a little bit tricky to call.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I mean, Maru, he only has a handful of units here, but it's 3 Banshees and 2 Siege Tanks.
Oh my God.
That's a lot of firepower. That Colossus.
It's going to get out, I think, barely.
Yeah, barely going to pop. But
Okay,
only
there's
3
Stalkers.
I think Classic's in trouble here right now. Only 3
Yeah.
Stalkers, 2 more are warped in, but with 3 tanks here in the front and 3 Banshees, this is going to be a tough position to hold. Probes are getting pulled. That Colossus is already taken down. The Stalkers are falling, and it feels like Maru with this push is going to be able to take game number 1.
Wow, okay. He just knew that perfectly.
Wow.
Quite the game to start things off. So it was kind of like what we were talking about a couple minutes ago. Basically, if Classic could pull this caper off where he gets that third base up and just holds the push, Maru would probably lose in a long game. And I actually thought for a little bit there might have been enough Stalkers, just barely, for Classic, but it seems like basically Maru kept every Banshee alive through most of the fight and every tank alive through most of the fight. And even though there was a small number of Marines, Stalkers, they don't kill. If there's several units out, the Stalkers, and they're all hitting different things, which they were in a lot of those fights, they tend to not fare that well. So really good game there from Maru, but I do like Classic's opener. He's clearly coming here very prepared.
Yeah, the opener was really fun there from Classic, and it felt like if he was able to stabilize and just hold off that push, he would have been in a great spot. He had a 10-worker lead for a long time. Maru was bottled up in his main base for minutes longer than he wanted to be, and just a very strong push there from Maru with a lot more Banshees than we typically get to see.
Yeah, a lot of Banshees with Cloak, but ultimately they were not really used to harass as much as they were used to just reinforce the push overall. And we're going to go now to Cosmic Sapphire here for map number 2 as Maru versus Classic continues on.
Terran, Maru. Protoss, Classic.
I kind of want to go back to that push that Maru did there in the previous game, because oftentimes when we see Banshees, we usually only see like 1 or 2 of them, and their sole purpose is to harass.
Right.
But it is so scary as a Protoss player when you're getting pushed that early from a Terran that has a high number of siege tanks and a high number of Banshees, and Maru fighting God Gamer. Thank you guys for coming down to the studio.
I think it said Omen. I don't know. Omen doesn't sound like a person's name.
Owen?
Owen, maybe?
I think so. It's Omen with an upside down M.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was a really cool technical push there from Maru. I mean, oftentimes it's not what we see. Banshees in that high numbers there, and they're kind of very fragile, right? But the siege tanks in that high count were able to kind of shoo the Stalkers away, where the Banshees just get full damage in, and they're safe. Because anytime that Classic would come to the front there with the Stalkers, Maru just clicks the siege tanks onto the Stalkers, and they do huge damage. So the Banshees survive that entire time, and Banshee DPS is really, really high. I mean, it's like a Liberator.
And you know what else? Like, I mean, a lot of times for the Protoss player, it's hard to target anything in a fight like that because, you know, the tank has such a better range and you can kind of position well. But the Banshees are able to soak a little bit of extra damage, and if that even gets 1 or 2 extra siege tank shots off, it probably is going to be game.
Yeah. It's a very powerful push there from Maru. We'll see what he has in store for us here in game number 2. Is Classic this time not opting for a 2-gate opening, just a 1-gate expand. Maru here with the Reaper going into the reactor and factory, so about as standard as it gets here so far.
Yeah, this game a little bit more ordinary, at least so far. I mean, we've got a lot more room for it to develop. We do have a... yeah, there we go. Okay, he was going to make a command center down there. And let's see what, you know, Classic wants to do. I like the idea of what he did there, and I think if it wasn't against somebody like Maru, he might have been able to pull it off. It did seem to be tailored to that map specifically, and it looked like the early part of Classic's build actually worked, like the way he needed it to, with having the Stalkers come in there and basically contain the Terran and kind of force the Terran to stay back. But I do wonder if the mistake was actually the 3rd Nexus.
Maybe.
I wonder if that should have been like 2 more gateways instead.
Yeah, it's tough to call because, you know, Terran has such a wide breadth of openings, and when you go 2 gates like that, you're delaying your tech a little bit as the Protoss, right? So Classic, he wanted to opt for that 3rd base, and if there wasn't a push that came out and killed him, he would have been in a fantastic spot, but he just kind of got greed checked a little bit there by Maru. And, you know, Maru is one of those players that if he goes for a build with the kind of power spike that we see in a push like that with Banshees and Siege Tanks, he's going to try and find maximum value from it. And I mean, when he sacrificed that Reaper, you know, he used the grenade to get into the main base. He had a pretty good idea of what was going on, even though he didn't get a full scout off. I think he saw that situation. He's like, okay, you know, there isn't like a really fast blink. There isn't any crazy tech I need to worry about. I can just come in here, set up right in front of the natural, and as long as I don't give Protoss time, I will be able to run them over. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons why he didn't go for that pylon or the cybernetics core is because he recognized that I just don't want to give Protoss any breathing room.
Yeah, it was more about time and less about like these sequential punishes. That's funny that we both had the same idea, like, oh, the core's there or the pylon's there, like get that.
That's why we're casting.
Yeah, that's why we're casting. But yeah, I think that it was a moment that we've seen from Maru so many times where Maru knows, like, he's okay getting behind and then actually recovering with a push because he sees the economic imbalance and everything there and knows how to kind of leverage it.
Yeah, Widowmine drop now coming in. First Widowmine in the main base doesn't get too much done as the Observer's already out, and Classic was with nice defense there on the natural expansion, able to take out that Widowmine as well. So really clean defense.
That's insane that he pulled that off.
Yeah, that Maru Widowmine.
That's wild.
Gets out by the skin of its teeth, but that was a really fantastic defense. Classic didn't lose a thing except for a little bit of mining time, but that's a huge win there for Protoss.
You really can't ask for better than that, right? I mean, he did a pretty good job. And nicely done. Gets the Observer. This is always annoying for the Protoss because a lot of the important units you're trying to make at this phase of the game, if you're on Robotech, like every Robo unit needs to be alive, or you're just sort of missing a piece of the puzzle. And to lose the Observer actually is, you know, it seems so... I guess anticlimactic, but really it is actually a huge impact on the Protoss. You don't know what's happening now. Are they going to push you? Or are they going to drop you? If you keep the Observer out and watch for pushes, then you just play drop defense and you're okay. But when you lose something like that, you just don't have any real idea as to what's going on their side of the map.
Yeah, and beyond that, you can't really replace the Observer either because at this stage in the game where Protoss is taking the 3rd base, they need full production out of that Robo and fighting units. Otherwise, they're at risk of dying from any Terran push that comes out, right? So it's a tough spot. Oftentimes, you know, when you go for Robo this early, you're not really just paying in resources for the Observers and the other units, but you're paying in the time on the Robo, so any kind of loss there really sets you back in your defense. And we'll see what Classic is going to go for here. You know, he's got a lot of time after deflecting that first Widowmine push because Maru, I think he was hedging a little bit on getting, you know, at least a little bit of damage done against the Protoss, and now it's been at least a couple of minutes where Classic has just been kind of free to macro up, and yeah, he did lose that Observer, but he does have a good idea, even catching this follow-up Widowmine drop. is a nice play for him, but you know, Maru just kind of playing at a little bit slower tempo here, taking that third base, so not going to be the kind of two-base push we saw from him in the last game.
Yeah, I actually am excited to get into a game like this for these two because we're getting into a longer one. By the way, there is a push coming here. I don't think that this push can actually end the game, though. It doesn't seem like there's even a good angle that he can try to come push in here. But again, it is Maru, so let's see what he does.
Yeah, a couple force fields here will buy a bit of time, forcing Maru to Siege to actually get past this junction on the map. As Classic's army is quite small here. Maru now coming forward, some Marines going for a stim, and Disruptor does get shut down there by the Raven. So going a little bit tit for tat there as both players using a bit of energy. Classic with the sentries and Maru there with the Raven. So we'll see what Maru decides to do with this now, and he's going to be going for the Cybernetics core.
Yeah, he's doing what we recommended in the last game. A push is coming down here, and this isn't enough, right?
I don't think so.
I feel like he's going to just have Colossus fighting tanks. It's
yeah,
like
there's like no game. Oh my god.
There's like a box art fight happening here. The Colossi know to run on top of the tanks.
Oh my god.
Wait, what?
That was, I haven't seen a
he
fight.
had to run from the auto turret. That's what happened. Okay.
I haven't seen a fight quite like that. Like, there's nothing guarding the siege. It's only siege tanks and
You don't
Colossi.
ever see the Colossus actually charge the tank.
Well, it was a smart move. Like, they have a minimum range, right? They can't shoot, so they have to
It's just so funny to see. The Colossus is shooting in between its legs.
What a wonky little battle. And Classic will eventually deflect Maru here, but I mean, both players kind of trading out a lot of key units. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Maru lost the Raven and a good number of siege tanks there, lost some Widow Mines as well, so both players' armies kind of getting reset just a little bit here.
Classic's going to reach deep into the bottom left and take a gold base. I like this game for Classic. I think especially with that attack from Maru, it was closer than I thought. It was kind of funny to see the way that ended. But, you know, taking out two Colossi as well, that's a pretty big victory there. Again, the Robo units, they're going to come out a little bit slower. There's only, as far as I know, one Robo in this game as well here.
Oh, Widow Mine drop goes undetected.
Okay, could have killed some more.
Could have.
But, you know, that's a pretty big win there to just get some workers like that.
Classic does snip out this push coming on the north side yet again. Only one sentry with maybe one force field, one Guardian Shield in its disposal, but Maru, as we talked about earlier, his siege tank count's a little bit less than it would be normally in this game because these players traded early, so kind of tough for him to breach this position over here as Classic now comfortably taking that fourth base. And man, I'm really liking what we're seeing out of Classic here in game number 2.
Yeah. Yeah, Classic looking strong. His gold base spot has been located, and there is a push coming down here. I see two tanks and two Colossi. This is a lot of Marauders.
Yeah, no shield battery either, so
yeah,
a little bit of a scary position here. Two Disruptors now enter the fray.
Well, the Disruptors could be very strong against the Marauders. Marauders are going to have a tougher time kind of avoiding that, especially with the clumpiness of the StarCraft 2 engine.
Yeah, Zealot's now warping in, and Classic says that's go time as the first Disruptor shot gets a siege tank. Second siege tank gets cleaned up as well, and man, Classic with a great fight here so far, but the frontline Zealots,
great control.
Yeah, they get taken out, but the reinforcements come in, and man, Classic doing a great job.
Well, that mine hit connects, and the reinforcements spill down here. The Bruised Stalkers will back up. You know, until an observer gets here, these Widow Mines can just reset, and this is a crazy move here. He's just going to pick up and swing north. He's going to go into the main. He's got more reinforcements. He wants to try to draw the less mobile units like the Disruptors or the Colossi back to the main, probably with a recall, right? And then he's going to try to wedge open the gold base down here in the bottom.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head as that medevac drop now going off to the north side as Maru postures near the gold base expansion. And two Disruptors and a Colossus, that's a lot of commitment going over there to the top, and as a result, there's not going to be much AoE damage over here on the south side for Classic as the Cybernetics core now goes down. Classic will rebuild that in a safer position. Finally deflecting this push over here on the top side, but behind all this, Maru wasn't really able to get enough forces on the bottom to really contest the gold base.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he's going to be really soaking up a lot of gold minerals over there. You know, you just need to have the gold base for a couple of minutes to start to feel the effects and the benefits of it. Maru expands towards the gold base by taking 6 o'clock and is continuing to pile on into this spot. Vikings are available here as well to try to further shove the Colossi back. Really good angle here, honestly, for Classic.
yeah, and I'm liking Classic's army too. There's a lot of AoE damage. 4 Disruptors, an Archon, Immortal, 2 Colossi. This is an army with a lot of finesse, and Maru just now adding the Ghosts and Liberators. I like this as well. It's going to add a lot more oomph over here to this push. We'll be able to slow push it just a little bit as here we go. Engagement coming off again. Maru will pull back into the safety of the Liberator range.
So right now, Terran's just out of range of being able to damage the Nexus. He's going to go ahead and dodge these Disruptor shots. There's almost enough Disruptor shots that he could just continue to cycle through shot after shot. Nice targeting again! Oh. And a little bit of a scratch there on the edge of the army, but he snipes down another Disruptor. Maru doing a great job of basically keeping the distance here.
Yeah, this can go either way right now, but I'm liking Classic's army. It is getting really big here. Oftentimes when we see these engagements, it's usually Terran dwarfing the Protoss and army supply just a little bit, but now Classic right up there with Maru, really leveraging this gold base. 102 army supply to 108, and one decisive battle could be game-winning here for Classic if he's able to take it, but Maru continuing to push very slowly here. This is a tough position for Classic to defend.
EMP onto the Immortal and Archons. Sorry, a couple of Immortals here. And snipes one down. Now, I gotta say, I feel like the army's a little bit better here for Classic, but is he gonna be able to tear through this?
We'll see.
Dude,
Classic charges forward.
The Vikings are winning that fight. They've taken out everything over there. They're gonna soak up more damage from the Immortals while the Marines may end up coming out on top.
And this fight is so close, but I think Maru's getting the better end of this trade as the Zealots get cleaned up, and now Maru with a ton of Ghosts left over, a Liberator as well. As just as you said, those Vikings took down those Colossi, and Classic, his army just gets decimated there in the final moments. It was a close fight, but Maru just barely getting the better end of that trade.
This is the tipping point, it looks like. The gold base is gone, but the overall supply is so low right now. It's Maru's at 96 army supply to the 30 here of Classic. And all those critical tech units that were built up, like the Colossi, like the Immortals, Disruptors, they're all gone. That's a huge reset button. Where, you know, the way that Terran can produce, Terran's going to kind of continue to have that balance of units. Even at the very end there, just dropping the Vikings once they had no more functionality other than to just soak up a few extra Immortal shots.
Yeah, and Classic is going to need some miracle Disruptor shots if he's going to stay alive in this game. Does get 2 Widow Mines and a Marine with that one.
Yeah, just barely these Disruptor shots are not getting off.
Yeah, and right now Maru's army is just overpowering here. As I mean, how does Classic's army push out into 2 Liberators and 4 Widow Mines? I mean, there's just no shot right now as Maru nearly doubling Classic in supply. The Disruptor shot coming in, but we're in the death throngs of this game as Maru looking to clean this one up and head to a 2-0 series advantage.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, Maru is just going to continue to find weak location after weak location, and I just don't think there's the numbers here. I mean, even with good Disruptor shots, there's not enough in between.
I mean, Classic could probably get a Disruptor shot in that entire army, and Maru would still win the game, but...
All right, GG. I think a more interesting late game there. I don't know where exactly Classic went wrong, do you?
I think it was that engagement, because looking at the armies on paper, Classic's army supply was very high. He had a lot of really high-tech army units, but just the way that engagement went in, the Zealots charged forward, and they got absolutely destroyed by not only the Bio Ball, but a high number of Widow Mines. And after that front line fell, it was a ton of Marauders, it was Liberators, it was Ghosts, doing massive damage onto Classic's Immortals, onto his Stalkers. Behind this, like, he's in Liberator range, and the Colossi are getting taken down from Vikings. So I think Classic maybe just jumping the gun a little bit. Maybe he felt like he had to breach that position. Otherwise, you know, he's going to get kicked off the gold, and that's not an acceptable situation for him. But, I mean, on paper, if that's like a fight that happens in an open field where Classic is able to come in with an arc and perhaps blink from the side and take down the Liberators with the Stalkers, it's better, but the way his army just clumped up right there in the main fight, it felt like everything went Maru's way.
Yeah, I feel like the writing's on the wall, but I hope I'm wrong. Right now, Maru with a 2-0 lead over Classic. We're going to go to inside and out to see if Classic can recover or if Maru closes this one out.
Terran, Maru. Protoss, Classic.
Protoss Classic. I prefer Cherry Protoss, but...
Was wondering where you were going to go with that one. It is nice of our announcer to let us know what races
we
they're
have Protoss
playing.
0 here. I'm on a diet.
Protoss 0 is what it looks like when I try to play the ladder these days, man.
Me too, man.
0 brains, 0 mechanics.
From
Hello?
Chicago, welcome. The Artosis grave.
Tombstone.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe one day we'll have a little Artosis zombie come out of the ground there. He goes, I want brains, but he can't eat any Protoss brains, so he stays away from us. Like, now, I gotta say, man, I don't know what Classic can really do to play better, because he's looking good, by the way.
Yeah, I want to touch on that just a little bit, because Classic is a guy that, I mean, 3 years ago, he was one of the best Protoss players in Korea, if not the world. I mean, there's a reason that he was in GSL finals.
And he had a very sharp style.
Yeah, very aggressive. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that Classic is the one that like proxy gated me the one time I played in Pro League, and I never got to play again. So yeah, I'm intimately familiar with his very aggressive style. But yeah, just really killer instinct. Like he would go for builds in PBZ or in PBT that would just absolutely destroy somebody. Kind of similar to what we saw him try to do in game number 1 here. And he's had a kind of tough road coming back. Two Racks Reaper from Maru, by the way. But he just hasn't found his footing since he came back from military service, and although it's a 2-0 map score in Maru's favor right now, I mean, he's literally up against the best Terran player in the world. And the games are closer than they might seem. Like that last game, I felt like Classic, with a little bit of a different engagement, can continue that game easily and potentially even lead to a win. So I'm liking what we're seeing out of him so far. I mean, it's kind of a tough luck of the draw for Classic to get Maru here in round 1 of Super Tournament, especially in single elimination. But
well, Maru just seems so untouchable. And, you know, Heroes really innovated on the race, but it doesn't seem like his style is very easy to emulate. You know? I mean, we almost need some, like, just play like Hero memes for Protoss because it's like what he does is so out there.
It does kind of feel that way sometimes. And Classic going for a 1-gate expansion with a proxy gateway, and Maru going for 2 Racks Reaper into an expansion is not the openings that I expected here in game number 3, but it's where we're at, so we'll see. Classic now going up to 3 gateways. Maru will? I think he did see that, but keep in mind he has not spotted the proxies, so he might just think that this is Classic responding to their 2 racks opening from Maru, but there is some danger kind of waiting in the wings here if Classic does decide to commit to 3-gate pressure, and that's why I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable seeing Maru throw down that bunker, the natural expansion.
Yeah. Clearly there's going to be some pressure here. If not, you know, a bust, attempted bust, I should say, here with the gateway, you know, this far out, so that he can warp in super fast. You know, it's funny because it feels like this shouldn't be the way that a pro wins a game, but sometimes you can just kill their bunker before they can repair it. And, you know, there's, especially with the pacing of StarCraft 2 games, sometimes you just don't. Your eyes are on the different part of the map, or your mind's in a different place in the game. And so we may just see him run up and shoot down the bunker and then start to pry open the Terran's defenses. Oh, man. Oh, boy.
Reaper spot the pylon and the gateway, so the jig is up, but behind this Classic, he wasn't really fully committing to the pressure, I think. I mean, he has a robo building at home. No Twilight Council just to speak of yet, but that probe already going out to the 3rd expansion. I mean, there isn't too much of a commitment here, right? Like, he's going to lose a pylon, he's going to lose a gateway, but realistically, that's only 250 minerals.
But I'll tell you, that's a lot of value to get with those Reapers.
It is.
Considering that they usually don't get to do that much, maybe just force you to stay back at home. But, you know, not bad there for Maru. I mean, things couldn't be worse to start things off right now for Classic, at least as far as his planning's gone. This should probably push Classic into a more normal-looking game. I don't feel like there's a lot of other opportunities that can present themselves, especially when you know Maru is going to be roaming with Medivacs.
What I'm concerned is that he delayed his tech quite a bit for this, and he does have the Robo and now the Robo Bay going down, but there's no Blink. There isn't even a Twilight Council out yet, so it's going to be a tough situation if the game goes a little bit later, and now Maru coming in with a Widowmine drop yet again. Classic spots this right away, pulls the probes. 1 Widowmine drops in the main base, and now Classic coming to the natural expansion, but no observers here at home just yet, so he's going to sacrifice a probe to get this Widowmine out of the natural, but Maru's so good at getting his Widowmines out of danger, will be able to escape, and Classic right now still only mining on one base.
It seems like we really are at the point in time where Maru never overextends with the medevacs and the Widow Mines, where a lot of times that was where Protosses would find their way to a victory, is just kind of deflecting and shutting down every medevac drop, every Widow Mine drop that came in.
Yeah, it's tough when players like Maru just go in there with a Widow Mine, and even after the drop, like, you might lose this Protoss a probe or two. You're going to lose some mining time, which is, you know, not the end of the world. But then the Widow Mine just gets out, and it survives, along with a medevac, and then it's in the back of your mind the entire time, right? And oh, I don't know if there's actually a dead air spot there. I don't think there is.
I don't feel like it, but I, you know, he might just put it down there because he knows he can't get it out. At least make them work to kill it, right?
Right.
We are going to have a push pretty soon here, by the way. I didn't see. Wait, I'm sorry. Was there a third command center?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, looking at the mini map,
okay, there's not.
No third command center, so Maru now pushing out
the
onto the map.
starport was a very small command center. It's a malnourished command center. So, yeah, I mean, this is going to be potentially one of the most straightforward interactions you have in a PvT as the Terrans powered up. Protoss is trying to really take advantage of the new, fresh third base, but Terran is going to come in here and try to take a fight and stop it.
Yeah, and Maru's army is actually so small right now. There's like 25, 26 supply right here for Maru pushing up on the map. And I mean, he does have all this back at home, but one of the advantages a little bit here for Classic is that, yeah, he delayed his tech. He doesn't have Blink, and he's only just now building the Twilight Council, the Forges, but that money had to go somewhere, and instead it went into his army. So he's going to have a little bit more than Protoss usually would when this push comes across the map, and so that might be what he wants to try and defend this.
I wonder where he wants to push, if he wants to go right through the center here or hit on the far right or maybe even hit on the left and try to shell that pylon and core and go up into the main. And I guess he's going to show us that now. It's going to be right down into the middle here. Now, one risk here is that you can get surrounded pretty easily from different sides, but he is close enough that he can kind of threaten that Robo. He takes out the Sentry. Sentry a bit misplaced there. Oh, and disabled there on the Colossus.
SCB is getting pulled as well. That second Colossus pops out of the Robo and immediately gets taken out as Classic's army just gets absolutely obliterated here, down to 7 army supply in the blink of an eye.
I mean, this is, I think, already over here. The Colossus is not able to really get in range and hit the units it needs to. GG, Maru takes that in a 3-0 fashion. I guess we shouldn't be too surprised, but I can be pretty damn impressed. I mean, he never fails to wow me with what he's able to do in this matchup. And again, you know, Classic, I think Game 1 and Game 2 were a lot better. I think Game 3, we never got to see his real plans come to fruition with the gateway getting spotted. But look, I mean, Maru, no shame in losing to him. I do want to see how Classic performs in next year's GSLs, because I don't think Maru's a very good test of where he's at.
Exactly.
But Maru, maybe he's going to take the Super Tournament. We're going to see. First, we're going to go to an interview, though. He is now the first player to survive into the round of 8 here of the GSL Super Tournament.
The first day and the first match of the GSL Super Tournament Season 2 starts with a Maru's win over Classic. So Maru, you were merciless today against Classic and you defeated him. How do you feel? You know, I'm really happy to have won a clean victory. I mean, Maru, you've always shown strengths against Classic, and then today you're going for the Banshee, and then 2 barracks, double barracks play. And were you certain that you can win with these strategies? You know, in my opinion, they were good builds to play against Classic. So I think they're pretty effective. In Season 3, you were trying to win the G5L for multiple years, then you were able to eventually get it last season. And then you accomplished your dream. And then your form is looking extraordinary right now. Doing so well in DreamHack and doing so well in GSL. I mean, I should have won DreamHack Atlanta, but I lost, so I'm a little disappointed in that. I'll try to win GSL Super Tournament this time. I mean, this is an offline match domestically in a long time, so any words to your fans? No, it feels like it's been quite a long time since I last played on this stage. I'll try to climb higher and try to meet the expectations the fans have of me. All right, once again, congratulations on the win. Thank you.
네, 이렇게 첫 번째 8강 진출자 조성주 선수 만나봤는데요. 다음 경기 16강 2경기 변현우 선수와 박진혁 선수의 경기입니다. 잠시 후에 돌아오겠습니다.